Hello friends and everyone, you're welcome back to Netcode-Hub channel. In this video, we are going to continue on from the e-commerce project that we have started together, and that is a font shop. In the last video, we were able to create our controller or our web service to handle the product by just adding product and also retrieving our product. Either it is featured or it is not featured. So in this video, we're going to have a look on how to consume this in a web API. Before we jump right into the practical aspects, let me appreciate you a lot for watching the video from this channel. And thanks to all those who have been subscribing to this channel, who also like the videos, who also watch videos from this channel, and who buy me coffee. I really appreciate you a lot for supporting this channel. You know, when you keep doing that, it helps this channel also grow. So with this project, each part of the project that we create is going to be available at the GitHub. So the previous one, that is this that I'm talking about, is available there. Check the previous video, the first one, the part 1 video. Check the description and you're going to have access to clone the repo from GitHub. When you're also done consuming this API in a Blazor WebAssembly, then I'm also going to push it to GitHub. You can also clone it. So I'll put various links in the video description. As usual, I do offer training session for people who are interested in .NET technologies, talking about Blazor, which comprises of the server and the WebAssembly, .NET, .NET MARI, and MARI Blazor Hybrid, and also web services, to precise a web API. So I have an email also beneath this video. You can just hook me up, all right, through that mail. Okay. Now let's jump into this. As you can see, let me take some few minutes, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, to go through what we did. Maybe for those who is the first time of you watching this video, we have a video already made, and that is the first part. And I suggest you watch that video before you come to this. Although I'm going to take you through, but this won't be enough for you to get the whole understanding. Okay. In case you're also good at it, then let's move on. So in our project, we have just an API endpoint that's for get product, and also we have this post product. So for now, we have these parameters: name, description, price, base, image, which converts to base64 string. We have quantity, we have is it featured, and we have date uploaded. So this is the default one. It's going to be set automatically as soon as you want to upload the product. So you can see from here, we have this. When you take us to the product retrieving, you can see we have this parameter here, and it's asking you, do you want to get featured one or you want to get a whole list? So if you want to grab only featured product, you set it to true, and you make it execute it, and it's going to return all products which are featured set to true. If you want to get product which also all products, either it is featured or not, you set this to no or false, and it's going to get us the whole list of products. For now, we have no product which has a feature that's true. But let's say if I change this to false and I try to execute this, definitely, I think in that video, we made one entry. So we see we have this, and our feature is set to false. This is all that we did, okay? Now, to go through quick with the code, we created our controller, we created our service. So when you go to solution, you can see that we have our interface, and that's a general interface for the server and also the WebAssembly, that's the client. We put that in the shared library, and you can see from the server, we created a specific repository, which is a product repository, a class. And in here, we created this repository, which inherits from this interface. And these methods are what we have defined in here. When you go to the interface, we define just 2 methods by creating the service response and also a product. Okay, so that's what we created. Now, when I go to this service response, this is found in the shared sense. It's going to be a response for the server and now the API. Well, not the server, the API and now the client too. We put it in the service response in the shared product. Is it product? Shared project. So you can see this is a record class, and which has this flag and it has this message. Okay. Now, so now we're going to continue on from here. We're not going to tackle the API for now because we did that in the part 1. Now, in this part 2, let's focus on how to retrieve this data from the API and display them inside the WebAssembly. But before that, C# has been released. The C# version 12 has been released, and it has some cool stuff that we can actually implement. I said that when we are starting this project, that during this project with .NET 8, I'm going to introduce you to some cool stuff in the latest update, not only for Blazor, but also the language actually that you're going to use. That's for the C#. Now, I believe you have .NET 8 installed. Yes, and what I'm going to do here, it works only when you have .NET 8, the SDK installed. So if you're not having that, try to update it to get a .NET 8. But let's say you have it already. So in doing so, here, normally we create a constructor here and we initialize this service. Actually, be asking yourself, if you don't know what constructor is, it is a piece of method that gets executed as soon as an instance of a class is being called. So this is a product controller. When this method or when this class is being called, it is the constructor that's initialized first to run some default startup before the app gets run. So we have it here, and that's what we are calling this product service. Now, instead of creating this startup here as a controller or as a constructor from this class, what you can do here is we're going to use a primary constructor. So what is primary constructor? It allows you to specify this product, this input here, and I remove the injection here. So instead of making this read-only field, this read-only field can be part of this constructor to simplify this. So there are different ways to do it. You can do it manually, or you can do it by click on this control period or control plus dot, and you see it tells you that use primary constructors. So if I click on this, you see use primary constructors, or you can just open this like this and now specify this product. Then you have this product service. So product service. Okay, so this is all that we need. Aside from that, we can remove this. This is the best way for now, and I think it is very, very simple and easier to implement compared to the previous one. You can see inject it over here, and that's all. Fantastic. Okay, so that is the modification that we are doing to the API. So currently we are not having that constructor here. We have it injected in the primary constructor. That is from the first base class. We have it specified here. Okay, now this is our controller. And now let's try and see if this will work. So let's reload this. Now let's navigate to the API. That is going to be our Swagger. And now let's test our API and see if the new feature added is going to make our API store work. So let's see for get product. We said you want to retrieve all products. So try this out. Execute this. And now let's see. All right, so we have it. So meaning that our primary constructor is kicking and working, so we can be using this all the time. That's great. Okay, so now let's close this and let's go to app. So I'm going to close everything from here. I told you that we are done with an API. We are not tackling the API for now. We are done with it. So for now, let's tackle the client section. So control, go to the Solution Explorer. We can just close the API, that is the server, and now open the client, and that's a WebAssembly. So the very first thing that we're going to do here is we want to create a component which we're going to use to add and also update product. So either you want to add a product, that's the phone, or you want to update the phone data. Okay, so you're creating one component to serve two ways. Now let's create it in here. Then I'm going to say add or update product component. Yes, I wanted to say control, but it's not control, it's component. Okay, so let's put in the pages folder. Let's right click and I'll add a component. And I'm going to say add or update product component. Okay. So we have this. We can just, for now, we can clear everything, or we can even clear the title here. This H3, we don't need it. Now, what we need here is to specify maybe the route. Okay. So here, we're going to specify this page. And now for now, let's make it as add product. Whoa, see what I've done? So let me do it well. So add product. Yes. So there's a route. So as soon as I navigate to page, the base URL / add product, I have to be navigated to this page. Okay, now here, what I need to do here is we're going to create an instance of this product. So that's our product model that we created. So we create an instance here as my product. Control period, we are going to inject this. But instead of using this, let's grab this, cut this. Let's go to the import, because you'll be using this often. So here, we can add it here like that. So all the time, or any component that you create, you can be using this product namespace in there. Okay, so the next to do here is, once we have this, we're going to have maybe our div. So let's say our class, and this is going to be our container. Let's use container for this adding. And let's have our div class. And here we're going to have our row. This is a bootstrap tense, and I believe you know how to do that. So close your eyes, and now let's do it, as I've closed mine. Okay, so I have this, and I'm going to use column MD. Let's use 6. Okay, so column MD6. So it will be beside us. Let's use that. And now in here, once you have this, Control KD, let's format it to 1. And now we are going to use an edit form. So edit form. Now this edit form, let's specify the model. And then the model here, it is my product. So which model are going to handle it with my product? Let's have this enhance. Now this enhance is a new feature introduced in .NET 8. Now it allows the page to get reloaded without reload the whole application. So if I click on that button, it is type of submit, the page or that section gets reloaded, but not the entire page. It's a good enhancement, so you make sure you add that. Now on valid submit, you want to also specify handle save. So handle save. So save product. That is a method. So in here, let's specify our data annotations by data for this to handle all errors. And you want to summarize it, so you need a validation summary in here. So I like to use this to clear all this. Okay, so now we have this. Let's have our div. And now here, the class that you're going to have is going to be a card. Now with this card, for now, let's have a card title. So we have a div class. And you want to set up the card title. So card, and here you can use title, you can use header. I like to use header because I love this match. And this is just, let's say, add product. Okay, so for now, you're making a static. You're going to make it dynamic, but for now, let's make it a static. So we have add product, and in that, let's also have our class. Now this class is going to be a card body. So this card body, you're going to specify this. And aside from this card body, let's have the last one as div, and this is going to be a card footer. And you know what footer means, right? So card footer, and this card footer, you want to have this button, and now the name of this button is going to be like, the type of this button is going to be submit. We're going to submit to this method here. So handle save, let's do it well. And let's have a class. So the class of this, maybe you're going to use a class of btn. I like btn outline. So outline primary, maybe this will, or info primary, that is this primary, is be okay for us. And let's say this is save product. Okay. So save, we can change the name here. We can make it add product or save product. Anyone is still going to work. Okay, so let's make that save product for general one. Even when we update it, we can say save product as well. All right, now in here, what we're going to do here is we need to install some client libraries such as Bootstrap icons. I think so. So or font awesome. So to do that, let's install this. So we can be using these icons in here, okay, because we want to make our work beautiful. So maybe we can use font icons or font awesome. So to do that, let's click on Solution Explorer. Now after you've clicked on this Solution Explorer, we have to navigate to the client section and search for Add Client Library. So I click on this www root folder and I click on Add. You can see you have this client library. So we are going to add Bootstrap. Let's use, is it Bootstrap or Font Awesome? Wow, let's use font awesome. So type in font awesome here, and let's see if you're going to have access to that library. Okay, so font awesome. Okay, so we have this. This is a font awesome, and the current version here it is 6.5.1. This is a library, so click on install, and I make sure here you can see restore operation started, and it's going to be added into this folder. So you're going to have font awesome here added. As soon as this has finished, you can see it is restoring this for us. So you see done, and we have the font awesome. So once we have this, the next thing that you're going to do here is let's open this. You see it has CSS and it has JS. That is the two folders that we need. Okay, all the other icons are found in this sprite and also this web form, but we need the CSS. So open it, and you see we have this all.css. So it is all in one. We go back to the same www folder because we have this index. Click on this index, and I drag and drop this anywhere that you want to add. So let's drag it here. We're making a reference to this font awesome. We have the CSS added. Now let's add the JS, the JavaScript. So also because we have this all.js, you want to add the minified version, but it is always advisable to use the minified version because WebAssembly is going to be downloaded to the client browser. So for tempering, user tempering, I think when you use the minified version, it's going to remove some of the long names and now use them with a single or characters to minify it in the long one run. All right. So we have this set. That's right. We are done without the configuration. Now let's go and use it. So here we can have this added. You can use this I, and now here we're going to have a class, and we're going to say FA stand for font awesome. Then FA font awesome. We can use something like, do we have add? We can use something like plus. Okay. So this is going to be FA plus, and I believe this is going to have access to the font awesome. Okay. Now, and that is save data. So let's see, but we can even change here to add etc. But for now, let's maintain this. Now let's copy this and let's run the implementation for that. So we're going to say void or async task. Remember that is an async task. Let's paste this, and we have the block code. Okay, so this is what we have. And once you have this button here as a footer, we can also start with the card body. So with the card body, let's have this first one as an input, maybe product name. So we can use product name here. So we have this form group, input text, and we bind it to product name. And the class here is for form control. For Bootstrap 10s, you're going to have it set. And also, the next thing that we are doing here is you want to add the next one. And this is going to be the number. So input price. And this is number. You can specify that. Also, we have this quantity. So you want to also add quantity. And this is a quantity. So let's see. So the quantity will also be a number. So you can specify the number in there as a product quantity. Okay. And we have a product description. So this is going to be a text area. So we have product description. And maybe you can have a column span, etc. Maybe do you have that feature in it? Well, you need to change yourself to set up the number of rows in here. Okay, so let's see. Now the next thing to do here is we are going to upload an image. Okay, so this image upload, we firstly want to have this, the same div section. And with that div section, we are having the label here. And now with this label, we want to display when you upload an image and there's an error. Maybe we want to specify only PNG images, but you did select the JPG. You want to display an error here on top of the section, the label. We don't want to use maybe a dialog box to handle that. We can use dialog box to handle that, but maybe since there's just an information, there's some more info that we want to display, we can toggle between the label and the message. So that's why we see I have this image upload message. So it is checking if this is equal to empty, then display this. So if this is equal to empty, if yes, then display empty. But in case it is not, then display test danger. it means you want to form a class. Remember, this is a class. So we are just manipulating the class to have the text known as a red. So because when you have error in upload, you want to display it as a red color. So this is a method to get a red color. And here we check that this is the actual message. So we check if the image upload is equal to the same thing as empty. They want to display this upload image. It means there's no error. They want to display the label. But in case there's error, then display the error and apply this test danger to it. I believe this is clear. When we get to definition for this, you understand it. Okay, so don't worry. We have our input file. There's a class, and you see this an onChange event. So when the event here changes, or when a file here gets changed, this event is going to get fired. So we need to create a method for this, and also we need to create a variable to handle this message. Okay, so this is all that we need to do for now. And the next thing to do here is I want us to use something like, with this submit button, maybe I want us to create another busy button. And now what is that busy button? Busy button can be found in a Bootstrap. I am not going to Bootstrap for now, okay? But I'm going to show you how it works. We want to use a spinner in that busy button. So as soon as you click on it, that spinner gets spinning until the process is being completed. And in doing so, let me do this well. Okay. So instead of this button here as a button outline primary, we are going to cut this. Okay, I like to put this in this, so I won't confuse you, to put it in just one line, okay? Like horizontal form. Now here, once you have this, I'll just grab this from this section, cut this, and I'll paste it here. Okay, now what I'm saying here is, if show save button is true, then show this, right? Else, show this. So after it is showing this, it's still going to show this busy button. And on this busy button, we have a method, a variable bind to it, and we are saying show busy button. So where from this show busy button? Let's have a look with it, how to create that show busy button. It's just a matter of creating a component, and I will name it as busy button, which has a button with a spinner from Bootstrap. Okay, now let's have a look on creating that busy button before we come to the implementation for this variables and this method. So we are creating a busy button, and let's go to Solution Explorer, and where we have our pages folder, let's create one component and I name it as busy button. So busy button component, as you can see from here, and this is what it's doing. It could see that it has a parameter here as a show busy button, and we are saying if this is true, then show this button. You know, this is a spinner. Have you seen spinner border? Is a spinner. So it's going to spin, and the button here, it is disabled. So this is what you want to do. You want to handle user interaction. When a user click on the button and there's a process going on, we want to update the user that there's a process going on. If not, the user can click on the button more than 3 times, and which maybe will just halt the system, or it will just send the same method again to the server, which has already been sent already. So we don't want to do that. I want to skip it. So what we do here is we hide, or we disabled the save button, and then display a spinner button, which runs for user to know that there's a process going on. So he or she must wait. So that is what we are doing. Let's save this and can just open it again. So you see it's I dislike the fading aspect. So we have a parameter, and this is a name, is a Boolean expression. So we say as soon as it is true, then display the spinner button. Okay, so we have it. Let's come back here. I need to create a variable to handle this, so we can toggle between this save and now this show busy button. Okay, so to do that, let's go back. So here, where the code section is, let's create a string variable to handle the image upload. So initially, this is set to empty. So if this is empty, then display what? Upload image. That is for the start, when this has no data. Okay. Now, if I click on this, what should happen? There's a method known as an input change. So input file change event, and this has to get fired as soon as the a file changes. So here we have this method, and let me just override this one. Okay, so there is a upload image. So when this file change, we want to, when this input file change, call this method, and this is a method. It is coming in as a parameter as this input file change event acts. This argument contains, we create an instance as E so we can have access to the file. Now here we did not add multiple, so it means we are adding one image. Okay, so here we get the format of this. But how can we get the format? We have to check the name of the file. Does it contain this .png? So we convert this to lowercase, and now we check. Okay, so does it contain this PNG? So if yes, that's when it's going to function. But if no, then we are saying that this image upload message is equal to PNG files needed. So in such case, this has a data now. Now it checks here. Does it have a data? Yes, it has it. Then it's going to change it to this data and now assign the text as danger. That means if you select an image which is not PNG, JPG or JPEG or etc., you're going to have access. You're going to have this error message displayed. But in case everything is working, it is a PNG file, then we state or we cache the format in here. So after creating the format, we have to resize it. We create a buffer size, we open read it so we can have access to the size. And aside from that, we are converting this into base64 string. But before that, we need to specify this format. Data, then a semicolon. Is it colon or semicolon? That's a colon, right? We specify the format. Remember the format here is the image slice PNG, and it is in a base64 string, and we convert to base64 string with the buffer that we have. When we are done with that, then it means everything is working. Set this image default to empty. Then we have this string here. So let's set my product.base64 image to this string that we have, and set this image to empty because we are not using this anymore. We are done working with this. So to clear it, remove the memory, or to free the memory, then you have to return. Okay, so that's what we are doing here. And when this button gets clicked, what is it doing? So for now, as I speak, the image has its string created or selected already. And maybe you have also the data here populated. We can run our own queries, or we can run our own system to check for validations. But since we have this, what you do here is we go to the model. And now on top of this model, where we have the shared library, you will see that we have a models folder. We have this product class. Now here I specify the required attribute on top. So that's what's going to use. Maybe the quantity here must be required. Okay, and maybe it should be more than what? 0. So the range should be 0 up to maybe 99999, etc. So you can just grab this. And let's put it on top here. So the range should be, you don't have to pass in 0 because you can put an item which have the quantity of 0. No. And it should be 9999999. For now, you can extend it, but for now, let's maintain this as what? As, is it 99,999? That's what we want to do. Okay, for this quantity. And now, as it featured, for that one, you can decide to set this to, if defaultly set to false, okay? So maybe default, you can set this to false by default. You can override it anytime that you want to do it. And now we have the date set over here. So this date has a default value. So we don't need to specify this required. Feature also has a default value, so you don't need to set this required on top. Now we have this, let's see. So we have this set. Now in this method, what are we doing? Before we check this, let's have a look with the features or the UI when we run this. I believe you knew you're going to have an error, isn't it? Because we did not specify the show button. Yes, so that's why we need to set that before we move on. Okay, so let's handle that first. So what we need to do here, let's create a public variable here to handle this show button. And maybe let's put, because you're going to use a dialog box to display message, so let's set it here as a show busy button. And we have it, so I believe you're not going to have any issue again. And now save, show save button 2, we need to set that as well. So let's see, and show save. So we're going to toggle between the two. Don't worry, I'm going to explain them to you for now, later on. Let's run this and see the UI that we have now. So the app is ready. Now let's navigate to add product. So this is what we have. You can see we have this add product, and we have the name, we have the price, and we have the quantity, the description, and the upload image. So for now, defaultly it is an upload image. If I click on, so we have this plus. If I click on save product, you can see I have all these errors in here. And our quantity, we said the range supposed to be 1, 0 up to. Let's check it out and see if we're able to do it well. So we go to the product, and our quantity, the range must be, okay, so it must be 1. Let's save this. Now let's check it out. So save this, and okay, it hasn't refreshed yet. Let's see. Refresh this. Alright, so let's do it again. Now add product. Okay, so we have it. Now if I click on save product, you see I must have all of these red because I need to specify this. Now you see it has the base image field is required. The field price must be between this. The quantity must also be between 1 and 9999. The name is required. So this validation is working as expected. Now if I click on save button, what should happen? We want to toggle. As soon as I click on save button, we want to hide this save button and I'll display the busy button, that's the spinner button. So it desists or it prevents the user from clicking on the button again. Okay, so let's have a look with that. Now when you come here, you can see there's supposed to be a class because the view here, we must have the page divided into 2. So you forgot this, so it's supposed to be class like this, double S. Okay. Now, when I click on this, what should happen? The first thing I do here is we want to set this button, this save button. So show save button. Let's set this to false. You know, defaultly, as soon as you run the page, it is set to true, so it is showing. Now let's set this to false. So this is equal to false. It means if I click on that button, then hide the save button. If I hide that, then I'm going to show this. So show busy button is set to true. And if I set this here, let's set this true. If I set this here, it's going to show this button. Notice the show button variable bound to. So it is going to show this button. This button is going to be a busy button, which is also disabled. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do here is, in case this button, this is false, okay, this button is going to show. And in case this shows, this button must be false. Okay. So we don't want to be running it on ourselves. We can just use a simple negation to handle that. So instead of setting this to true, we can just set this, the opposite of this. And you know, what is the opposite of this save button? It is true. So if this becomes true, then this show button is going to be false. If this is false, this becomes true. If this is true, it becomes false. Okay. So at the time, show busy button becomes the opposite of the show save button. All right. Now we have this set. Let's save this. I believe this is clear, isn't it? If you are not, pause it and try to go back and listen it again. Okay, we're setting it in an opposite of this, so you can just automatically render it without we have to create another method to handle those. Okay, now what we're doing here is we want to check if the image has been selected. Then we check if string here it is not null or empty from this base image. Then we want to show this dialog box if string here it is null or empty. Take note, I said not null, but I did not negate it. It is null. So if the user did not select an image, then message dialog box dot set dialog values. So where from this method? It is a method that we are using a dialog in .NET 8 to handle that. I've made a video on how to use .NET 8 dialog element, and that's really what I'm using. In here, I am going for a type, an alert type, and an alert message. So you can see I have warning and I have the message in here. And also I have this set message dialog. What are these methods doing here? Don't worry. Let's start with creating or having this method set. So let's first create this component. You know, this is a component that we need to create. So let's go to solution. Now in the pages folder, let's create this component in here. And I'm going to say it is a message dialog. The responsibility of this guy here is to display messages to the user, either a success message or an error message. Okay, so we're going to customize it to make it in a dynamic form that when you have an error, you can call this display. And also when you have a success message, you can also call the save dialog element to display that. We are using a dialog element. By the end of the day, we are putting it in a component. So it's going to be a dialog component. Okay, so you can keep this and you can be using it in your subsequent project that you'll be doing. I believe you're going to do that. Okay, so we have this dialog element from .NET 8, and you can see we have this as my ID, and we have this the style. These are all CSS styles, and I believe you are good at CSS than I do. We have the card header, as you can see from here, and there's notifications, and the card body. You can see this an alert type. So we're using a div class of alert and alert type, and you specify the message. So alert type here could be alert danger, alert warning, alert info, alert primary. Okay, so we're going to specify that based on the state of the message that you want to pass in, and now you're passing the message in here. We have a card footer, and that is a okay or agreed or all right. You can rename it anytime that you want, any name that you want, you can give it to it. And now you want to set up the button based on the alert type. So if this is a danger, you're going to have danger here. If this is info, you're going to have info. If it is success, you're going to have success displayed in here. And you know, there's a form method as dialog. So as soon as I click on OK, this form can get hidden. Now we specify this here as the alert type and alert and this message. Defaultly, we set them to empty. I believe you're asking yourself, why? Why don't you create this as a parameter? Yes, we don't want to do that because we want to perform status change. So you want to create a priority method in it so we can be setting this method ourselves. So see, we have a priority method, and now we say we have alert type and now the message. So instead of calling this setting the values for these guys here, no, we create a method and we set the values from this method through, we set the values from these parameters or these variables through the method that we have defined. After that, we can call the status change. And that's exactly what this is doing. You can see that this alert type has been assigned the value to this alert. So these are going to come from outside the world. Okay, so outside the scope. Then we set it to the values for this. Aside from that, use this status change, which will render the application or the content to have these messages set over here, and now refresh the app to get them notified. Okay, now here it is show message. So here too, after setting this, having these values as a current state, then we want to invoke this void. And now here it is a JavaScript method that we are calling. If you've watched that video, I'll put it at the description. You will see we call the same method show dialog JavaScript. Okay, so this is a method that we are calling a JavaScript. And you know, we have this error here because if you want to invoke JavaScript, definitely you need an interface for this Java runtime. So we can do that quickly. From here, let's go to the import. Let's create one and for all. So here we're going to say @inject, and let's inject IJS runtime. I believe you've seen that before. And let's say JS. You save this, and now when you go back to the message dialog box, you're going to say this is going to get lost because we have the interface or the instance created or injected in the import.razor file. Okay, so this must be off now as I speak. It should go off. Now let's see if I close this and if I open it again, I have to see this gone. Okay, yeah, it is because it has now found the root and it is in the import file. You can see from this, it has been injected. Okay, now we have this. So this is the message. So anytime that you want to show this, call this method. Anytime that you want to set the values, call this method. Very simple, isn't it? So it seems like it is a state that we are creating. This a local state. Okay, this is not a global state. It's a local state that we are creating, but we have a global method that we can invoke it outside the component, and we're going to set the state of this and also perform a state has changed to render the component and then get at the current values that we need. So once you have this, let's go to the add or update component and I'll consume that. Since we have method here, the question is how can we call this method? We are not using an event callback or an action type to return or to notify. Here we're using a method in here. The best way to do that is use the ref attribute. I hope you've made a video on how to use a ref attribute to handle method in a chat component. So we have to add this as a chat component first. And now down here, let's add a chat component. So we can do that from down there, and in here, let's paste this chat component. And that's a message dialog that we have. We set it as ref at what message dialog. Now, when you create this reference, referring to this method, this component, it means that all public method in this component is going to be available in this message dialog reference here. So to do that, we can also create an instance of this reference to match the component state here. So on top of this, I like to group them. So on top here, we say message dialog, and this we set to nullable because you can call a method, you can pass in empty one, and we have to make it as nullable. So we have nullable here, we create an instance. And now we're saying that message dialog.set dialog values. We pass in the alert type, and now there's the alert message. I believe this is clear. When we are done, you want to call this set message dialog. Here, once you set the values, it's going to call a state has changed, isn't it? Because if I peep this here, if I click on peak definition, it's going to set what state has changed, as you can see from this. And we need to call this method. But this method will be called often. So why don't you create another separate component so you can be calling it all the time? You know, in programming, one thing that you have to take note here, it is do not repeat yourself. Do not repeat yourself. Okay, so the code that you create, you make sure you create an extensible one that you can be using in and out of your application. So you don't want to repeat ourselves. So in order to do that, we want to create a component. Is it a component or a class to handle that? So the class, this is what the class is going to do. Let's put it down here. And on this class, we say it is set message dialog. What is it going to do? We are saying that await message.show. So we are calling this message dialog. We call this, okay, to show the message. After showing the message, we want to set show button to false, because show busy button here has to hide, because there's an output from the API. So when there's an output, we don't want to start showing the spinner. No, the process is completed. So the spinner should off, and now the show save button should come to life. All right, so that's exactly what we are doing. Or even with this, we can say that this show save button is equal to the opposite of this. So we can also do same here. So instead of setting this to true, we can say it is an opposite of the show message. So both of them can show at the same time. One must be off, one must be on. One must be off, one must be on. Anytime the show button here is false, this save button is going to be true. And we call this state has changed. This state has changed here is going to be called inside this method here. But here we have the show button from this section. So we need to also call state has changed. So this means that we are calling state has changed twice. So this is what we can do. We can also create this in a component, and I'll call the state has changed in here. But for now, don't worry. We call state has changed in this component, and we call state has changed in also the parent component. And it's still going to work, okay? No confusion. I don't want to confuse you much with a lot of code. We want to do it step by step. I believe you love it. Okay, so that is this one. That what we need to do. Let's save this, and that is it. Now here we need to use is an async task. So if this is null, then we display this message. But what if in case it is not? In case it is not empty, it has data, then we are going to call our service and display the results. So here we are using the tuple. So tuple here, we are making an explicit output, explicit outcome. You know, this method is going to return, the product service is going to return a flag and also a message. So if we check our controller, I don't want to go back, but for now, let's say this is our product service. We're going to go to solution and now check the service. We have our product service in the client section. Let's see, we have our services. Where is it? So let's see where our service is going to handle. Okay, so this means we have not created any service, but we are trying to call this service. Wow, I forgot to create it. All right, so let's pause here and now create this service before we come back here and now utilize it. So when I come, I'm going to explain this to you. Okay, so for now, skip this and now let's create the service. So quickly we go to solution, and now in the client section, right click on the client project. Let's add the folder here, and this folder I'm going to say, okay, so let's stop this. It is still running. Let's say this is a client service. So yeah, I'm going to say it's a client service. So client services. Okay, so I want to make it as client service because it's going to handle all client services. So services will be okay. Then in that, let's have access to a class, and on this class I can make it as client service, and I think this will help. So client service, okay, or client services. So this client services, this is what it's going to do. It's going to inherit from the iProduct. This is an interface of iProduct, and this iProduct is coming from the contract folder from the shared library, and it has some method that we need to implement. So control period, we implement all the interfaces here. We have 2 interfaces in there, and this interface that we use in our API is the same thing here. We don't want to create 2 interfaces, no, which have the same method or types. So then we can just create one and use them here and there. We make it in a smart way, then we move on with it. Okay, so now that we have this service, since we're going to make a call to an API, let's inject an HTTP client, and we can do that from a primary constructor. From now onwards, anytime that I create .NET 8 projects, I'm going to use primary constructor because that's a new one and that's what we need to use. Okay, we want to upgrade our coding style. So let's use the new ones and to use that to skip a whole lot of writing, a whole lot of code. So here, let's pass in, we need to inject HTTP client. Let's create an instance here. And that's all. We need not to inject this. Okay, we have it created already. And that will be all. Okay. So once we have this, let's go in there and register this before quickly we forget. So we go to the program in the same client section. Now in here we say builder.services. So .services.add scope. Now with this scope, you're going to specify the iProduct as an interface. Then you're going to say it is a client service. So client services here, and we can now close like this. Okay, so we Control KD, save it well, and let's go back to the client services. We have it injected. All right, so from add product, what are you going to do in the add product? Before you create an add product, we want to create a general static method to handle that. Okay, and this static method, you want to have access to the base URL. So on top here, let's have this base URL specified, and it's from the API/product. You know where we get this from? Go to this solution. Now go to the server, and now you can see from the controller, you have this product controller, and around here there's an API/controller. And the name of that controller here, it is a product, so it is an API/product. I believe it's clear. Can we continue on? That's right. Now let's see. We also need to specify a JSON serialization options. Now, I also made a video on communication from a client and a server made easy because of the new .NET 8 serialization. You can specify this from the top of the model, or you can do this inside the options. So let's create one option here to handle all requests. So this has to return this. So let's specify it on top here. This is going to return a JSON serializer options. Okay, so we're going to call this method to return this. Now it is a static. We are returning a new instance of this. Allow training commerce we set it true. Also property name case insensitive here, it is true. So maybe if I have name capital and I have names lowercase, we want to check that they should, as soon as it has the name, the same spellings, it should match it. You shouldn't check either is capital, so it's going to skip it. No. And now here, property naming policy, we're going to use camel case. Camel case starts with lowercase and now uppercase. So that's a camel case. And now on mapping member handling, we set it to skip. For now, we are not handling, or we are not skipping any member. When you check the product, when getting from the API, it is only ID, even ID when posting, it is only ID that's not going to provide a value for it. So all the rest is going to have a value. But in case we decide to retrieve that and skip any of the property here, you're not going to have issue. At first, you're going to have issue, but because of the .NET 8, wow, .NET 8, this property, we can now skip that without having any issue. I believe this is clear. Okay, so we have these two methods. These are static and they are general one that we're going to be using often and often. So that's why I put them on top here. Now the first thing to do here is you want to first get a string content, because you're going to make a post. So in a post, we have to specify a string content. And now we also create one method to handle the string content. So here, this method is going to handle the string content. Then paste it here. So here, this is what this method is going to do. We have a private static is a string content as a return type. And now the name is generate string content. We pass in the serialized object. And now here, we create a new instance of this string content. We pass in the serialized object as a payload coming in here. And we want to specify the encoding type as UTF-8. And our application type here is /JSON, because we are posting a JSON to the API. So we need to specify this also. Okay. Now that is this one. So all these methods, they are general ones that you're going to be using often. So that's why I decided to put them here. So you can be using this. In case you want to use this outside the scope of this, you can put them in a separate class. Then you can make it a static, so you can be using them both class and outside models. But for now, let's maintain it here because we want to handle everything in here. Okay, now let's have a look with the next one, serialized object, and now the serialized object. So we're going to have three aspects. The first one here, it is if I want to serialize object, what can I do? So if I want to serialize object, it's going to return a string, because you know this model here is going to be an object. You want to make it as a generic. So even when I call this method, I pass in the t value, it's still going to serialize it. That's why I made it as an object. I did not specify as a product. If you make it product, it means you are limited. You want to make it as a global one. So any model can be serialized through this method. So we serialize it into a JSON. We pass in this JSON option from this down here, which is going to return what I explained earlier on. Okay. Then the next one here, you want to deserialize it. And now we want to return a t value. So this is also a generic. And I want to return a t value. We did not specify it. We pass in the JavaScript. JavaScript. Whoa, it's a JSON string here. And now it's going to deserialize it into a t value. Then return this t value. Okay. Now that we have this set, we also want to return enumerable. Maybe this could be a list form. This serialization is only a single model. What of in case we get all products, we want to deserialize them? We cannot be calling this 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. No, we don't do that. We want to create a method to handle both. That's a bulk of what product. And let's put it down here. So deserialize, and now this is what it's doing. You can see it's an enumerable of t. Deserialize JSON string list. You pass in as a list of t. Then this is the same string, and now we want to deserialize it in the list form. And I'm passing this JSON string and also passing the options, and that is all. So the return type here, it is enumerable, that is a list of t. The return type of this is just a single t, right? Good. So now we have these are the general ones, and you're going to be using this often. That's why I just have to set them on top as a static ones. So the instance of these are created once in the memory, and that's all. So memory usage is also very vital and crucial in the application. So at the time you want to, as soon as you use static, it means that the instance is created once and now kept and can be using it often. Okay, so let's see how to add product. So to add product, we can just have one method to handle this. So there's an add product, and you can override it with this method to add product. It is returning a service response and it's coming with a model as a payload. So get responses is equal to HTTP client dot post async, passing the base URL. Then we have to pass in generate string content and now serialize this object passing this model. Okay, so that's all that we are doing. Base URL is the base URL here, API/product. We need to pass in the string content. So here, generate string content, and now this string content here, it needs a serialized object. So the model that we pass as a model, we want to serialize it first before we pass it into this string content. And now you see within one line of code, we're able to do that since we have them extracted separately method down here. Okay, now let's read response. So we check if response here it is true. If it is false, you can see we are negating it. So if the status code here it is false, okay, then you want to return this. The question is, what is the range of status code? It is not actually 200. It is 200, 201. let me actually show you the status code, the range that we say it is success. So this site gives you all the complete HTTP status code. Now you see, if I say it is success, it means it starts from 200 and it ends up to 226. So if the response is found within any of this range, then it is what? It is success. And that is exactly what we are getting here. So in case it is success, in case it is not success, it means it couldn't get connected to the database at all. Meaning you want to return error occurred, try again later. But in case it's able to get connected to the API, then going to read the response from the API as a string. Then you want to deserialize the response into a response object, whereby this response says if I peep it, it has the Boolean expression, you can say it has the message as a record class. So we can going to convert it into this, and now we can return this service response. So we are returning this as a service response in here. Okay, so that's an add. Now, when you go to the next one, that is to get the list of products. We can also get the whole list in here. And now you can see from here, we need to have, is it featured item? Then we can now get the featured item. In case it is not, you can also return that. Okay, so let's have a look with this too. Then the next thing to do here is you're going to check and read the response if it is success. So if this results or if this response, so let's make that response. If this response is not success, return this null, because here is a list, so return null. Else, then want to deserialize it as a list of products, and I return this result. Okay, so if it is not null, then you see from here that you say response.content.read as string async. Then we are going to deserialize it into a list form, and I return this. And now let's change this to iList as well. Okay, so this is going to be solved. And now when you come here, we change it to this a list. So here it is a list of products. And maybe instead of this, we will have to convert this into a list, then return it to this. Okay, so to do that, we can just specify this dot. Will toList work for this? Okay, so toList will work because you're converting this to a list. Now let's see, so use collection expression. So, okay, so maybe this is also a new one that we can actually use. Return it as a list form into this list of products. Okay, so that is it. When we check our controller, we have this as a list, and that's fine. Alright, so in the next video, we're going to talk about how to consume this client service in the Blazor application to make a query or request from the API and also display it in a UI form. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed this, as I also enjoyed it with you as well. I'll leave this link in the description, so you can just go in there and unclone this repo too. If you want to buy me coffee to support this channel, I'll be happy to receive it, and check the description. The link is over there. As I said earlier on, I offer training session for people who are interested in .NET technology, so you can hook me up. The link is beneath the video. Thank you and take care of yourself. And I'm going to catch you up in the next video. That's going to be the part 3 or the episode 3, isn't it? Bye-bye.